Which takes me to the state of our presidential campaign. I wish I could give you better news, but I think you know the truth. And that is that we are now some 300 delegates behind Vice President Biden, and the path toward victory is virtually impossible. So while we are winning the ideological battle, and while we are winning the support of so many young people and working people throughout the country, I have concluded that this battle for the Democratic nomination will not be successful. And so today, I am announcing the suspension of my campaign. Please know that I do not make this decision lightly. In fact, it has been a very difficult and painful decision. Over the past few weeks, Jane and I, in consultation with top staff and many of our prominent supporters, have made an honest assessment of the prospects for victory. If I believed we had a feasible path to the nomination, I would certainly continue the campaign. But it's just not there. I know that there may be some in our movement who disagree with this decision, who would like us to fight on to the last ballot cast at the Democratic Convention. I understand that position. But as I see the crisis gripping the nation, exacerbated by a president unwilling or unable to provide any kind of credible leadership, and the work that needs to be done to protect people in this most desperate hour, I cannot, in good conscience, continue to mount a campaign that cannot win and which would interfere with the important work required of all of us in this difficult hour. But let me say this very emphatically. As you all know, we have never been just a campaign. We are a grassroots, multiracial, multi-generational movement which has always believed that real change never comes from the top on down, but always from the bottom on up. We have taken on Wall Street, the insurance companies, the drug companies, the fossil fuel industry, the military-industrial complex, the prison-industrial complex, and the greed of the entire corporate elite. That struggle continues. While this campaign is coming to an end, our movement is not. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. reminded us that, quote, "The arc of the moral universe is long, but it bends toward justice," end quote. The fight for justice is what our campaign has been about. The fight for justice is what our movement remains about. Today, I congratulate Joe Biden, a very decent man, who I will work with to move our progressive ideas forward. On a practical note, let me also say this. I will stay on the ballot in all remaining states and continue to gather delegates. While Vice President Biden will be the nominee, we must continue working to assemble as many delegates as possible at the Democratic Convention, where we will be able to exert significant influence over the party platform and other functions. Then together, standing united, we will go forward to defeat Donald Trump, the most dangerous president in modern American history. And we will fight to elect strong progressives at every level of government, from Congress to the school board. As I hope all of you know, this race has never been about me. I ran for the presidency because I believe that as a president, I could accelerate and institutionalize the progressive changes that we are all building together. And if we keep organizing and fighting, I have no doubt but that is exactly what will happen. While the path may be slower now, we will change this nation, and with like-minded friends around the globe, change the entire world. On a very personal note, speaking for Jane, myself, and our entire family, we will always carry in our hearts the memory of the extraordinary people we have met across this country. We often hear about the beauty of America, and this country is incredibly beautiful. But to me, the beauty I will remember most is in the faces of the people we have met from one corner of this nation to the other. The compassion, love, and decency I have seen in them makes me so hopeful for our future. It also makes me more determined than ever to work to create a nation that reflects those values and lifts up all of our people. Please stay in this fight with me. Let us go forward together. The struggle continues. Thank you all very much.
This is a dark day. This is a dark, dark day. I have to be honest. I'll be very honest with you. You're my audience. You guys are on my wavelength, whether you agree with me or disagree with me. There's some level of closeness where you get me on some level. So I will be extremely honest. My emotions are somewhat scattered on this. And they're scattered in all sorts of strange ways. Some I can pinpoint, some I can't. So in one part, there's this feeling of like bitterness towards the Democratic Party and towards the hacks and the creature of that particular party. There's this odd anger towards the population itself that voted for Biden, even though he's cognitively challenged, because they couldn't think of anything beyond the imaginative box. That the Democratic Party, for the most part, have been so feckless and weak that their imaginations have been deadened to anything real getting accomplished with a candidate like Sanders. I don't blame them for that, even though, you know, irrationally, I'm somewhat angry towards them in that sense. It's strange. Angry at Sanders. And the anger at Sanders is strange because in one part, love the guy. By the same token, I'm pissed at him. I went over that in other videos, so I'm not going to browbeat that point, but it's there. There's this kind of sad feeling at what was potentially available and what potentially could have taken place, but Sanders was buddies with Joe Biden, and so, you know, there's that. He felt squeamish about going after Joe Biden, so, you know, there's that. Despite the fact that 500,000 people are going bankrupt for healthcare, these are his numbers. 3/4 of the public, paycheck to paycheck, again, his numbers. Climate change is an existential threat where his grandkids may not be able to inhabit the earth. He said that. I didn't say that. That's the issue of planet Earth. Student debt on the backs of our society, what, 1.something trillion dollars. We got to get rid of that. That's onerous that we're going to do that to our kids and to the people who are trying to grow up. We should not be attacking people for the tomorrow to get an education. He said that. Those are big things. Those are big, big things. We need to Medicare for all. All of these are big, big things, and all of these matter. When you realize they are biting into our particular society, he is effectively harnessing the hurt that is over our society, saying, this is hurt. And I am hurting because of this hurt. And I will work for my brother as if I was working for myself. And people screamed at that because they feel that at somewhat of a gut level, and somebody is finally saying it. And it's a viable candidate for the first time in 50, 60 years that is getting this once in a lifetime opportunity, a moonshot opportunity. And there is nothing behind him. Meaning there's nothing beyond that. It's just him and that moonshot. And he can't bring himself to overcome his ideological boundaries regarding going after his political opponent. And so the only thing he could do was rhetorically repeat his stump speech over and over and over again. Even when it became clear that that wasn't working, he repeated his stump speech over and over and over again. And he went up, and then he immediately collapsed. And there was no versatility, no imagination. And even now, as he gets out the race, no versatility, no imagination. Perhaps he's tired. Perhaps it's like, God damn it, man. I'm an 80-some-year-old man. I'm tired. I can't keep doing this. I can't keep this up. Whatever it is. But there is no imagination in regards to, all right, this is my last hurrah. I have nothing else. I'm going to lose this match, but maybe I can rip some out of this particular case. And without breaching his own ethics, without breaching his own ideological lines, take a political position for once that is trying to get something accomplished, that is a position of strength, as opposed to this weakness that just seems utterly and entirely endemic to the left. If at some future point somebody is looking at a video and they're trying to understand politics, don't look at Sanders. Look at Sanders in one respect, authenticity, meaning he had an ideological bias towards, I'm going to work towards the interests of the poor and the middle class, etc. Yes, hold on to that. That level of authenticity is a strength, and it allows you to stand strong. For example, they couldn't attack Sanders because Sanders owned his positions. So they attacked his supporters. They attacked his base. But the key point is they couldn't attack Sanders because he was authentic. Authenticity is a weapon. It is a strength. Rigidity is not a strength. And therein lies the problem for Sanders. It's not a bug, it's a feature. The same rigidity that he had in regards to keeping his ideological positions in regards to policies, it's the same ideological rigidity he had to going after his opponents. He bragged about not having attack ads. That's not anything to brag about. That attack ad is in a tool in your toolkit that you use when you need to get from point A to point B. That's just politics. That's not me making anything up. That's just how politics is run. You may not like attack ads, but those are part of the process and those are necessary. And you can run attack ads that are being entirely honest, especially if you're talking about challenging the position of your political opponent. Sanders didn't do that. Sanders didn't believe in that. It's a letdown, that's all. Because it feels like there were opportunities. I don't want to hear anything about cheating. There were opportunities. Those opportunities were squandered. Those opportunities weren't taken. And even when they tried to push him to take those opportunities, when Nina Turner, Bernie Sanders, Joe Biden has betrayed the black community, Zephyr Teachout, Joe Biden is corrupt. He's put both on the knuckles, even David Sirota rapping him on the knuckles, pushing these guys to the side and running the campaign in the way he wanted to run the campaign with this kind of glorious, euphoric language that, yes, it's compelling, yes, it's true, yes, the people should bite onto it because it's in the interest of the 99% of the population. And yet, debates aren't necessarily entirely won by the person who's right. And in this case, despite winning on policy, he lost the debate. Bernie Sanders is out the race. The question becomes, what's next for the left? I have a suggestion, and I strongly heed that you listen to my suggestion. Usually I'm in this thing that you go from 0 to 1, never necessarily hitting one or the other in regards to how certain you are about something. Ultimately, you end up in this thing of a maybe, or I think this is true more than not. But certainty is a little different. I would make an argument that is approaching certainty to me at this point. I was squeamish in 2016 about it, even though I still went along with Jill Stein. In this year, I'm not squeamish at all. I'm very certain. Nothing takes place politically with weakness in the political space. They're not going to give you anything. It's not about giving you anything. That's not politics. You have people grabbing and pulling and tugging. All of these people with the various incentives, especially with a huge amount of money behind it. How do you get people with all of those incentives, with all of those people clawing at them and trying to get them to do X or to do Y, to follow your path? And do you honestly believe that giving over all of your leverage, all of your support is the way to do that? And how has that worked out for you over the past 50 years? And is it not time to be honest and have an autopsy in whether or not your absolute complete capitulation and cowardice in regards to the Democratic Party has advanced your causes? They lined up. Put this shit in perspective. You must have an autopsy of 2020 because you need to be honest about your association with the Democratic Party. Sanders was the embodiment of everything that you believed in. In fact, the modest embodiment of it, because many lefties went further than Sanders. The Democratic Party, every last fucking one, lined up and said, A, we would have a brokered convention as compared to having you win. 2, we're against all of your policies, including Elizabeth Warren, who after going the entire campaign telling her people that she was against dark money at that moment. Yes, I was for it beforehand. Yes, I will be for it after it. But in this moment, I strongly am against it. So you can trust me. And that trust lasted all the way up until the point where she went broke. She used a super PAC just to stay in the race to split the vote. My point is, the entirety of the party, Warren wasn't a bug, she was a feature in that process. The entirety of that party, Warren held Sanders down while Joe Biden got the killing blow. The entirety of that party lined up against you and your interests. And when they couldn't attack the candidate, they turned around and attacked us. You're sexist, you're racist, you're belligerent to women, you're this, you're that. This is what they did. And then you're going to tell me that you're going to turn around and back that after all of that? As if that should be forgiven and that should be ignored? What happened in 2016? They cheated your guy in 2016. And now they shit on you in this race. And you turn around and say, okay, we got to back that. Are you insane? What do you think you're going to get out that process when you're that willing to capitulate on everything that you believe in again and again and again, year after year? Every 4 years, you turn around and ass kiss some random Democrat hack. And you're shocked that they take you for granted, shocked you're maligned in the political process, shocked that you're the political equivalent of the abused spouse. Why do you think that African Americans vote 90% Democrat? And then they whine and bitch that Democrats take them for granted. Why do you think that? Do you think it has anything to do with the fact that you vote 90%, that your vote is a given, in which case they have to give you nothing? You give everything without getting anything in return. Sanders, the moment that he got into this race and agreed to give his support to Joe Biden, gave it all away. Gave it all away. Welcome, yes, to a long-winded, scattered emotionally, but I do have a point, soapbox. My name is Jamal Thomas. This is the Progressive Soapbox. Guys, if you enjoyed this content, please like, share, subscribe. You can always support PayPal, Patreon. Sanders drops out. I'll be honest. There'll be people who are going to dance on my grave. There may be people who even showed this video. And they'll say, look at the hurt on its face. It does hurt. I would agree. This is kind of like if you're playing chess, right? You're at the barber shop. There are days where you go in, you're a monster. There was a time where I went for years without losing games. In fact, it would have been weird for me to lose a game. That's how strong I was. Not there now, but at the time, pushing 2,000 or more than 2,000, and could play at a 2,200 level if we're playing Blitz. A monster, absolute monster. And there's a lot of shit talking that goes along with that, because as a kid, there was a lot of shit talking to me as I was growing up. And you just kind of, that's normal. Sometimes you use that in defense of somebody else. Other times, you're just being an asshole. Just is what it is. Again, no quarter expected, no quarter given. Your opponent entirely understands that you're going to debone him if you get the opportunity. He's going to debone you if you get the opportunity, and he's going to talk shit to you as he's doing so. It's just part of the process. There are times where you have big games that you lose and you have to take the shit talking. It's just part of being a man. You stand there, you take it. Some other day, you will return the favor. So I understand it. It hurts. I'll be honest. I can be man enough to say that. It hurts. It pisses me off in a way, right? Like, this is not us going out in the back alley and we're just brawling and there's just a fight and I'm just punching you in the face and you're punching me in the face. And at the end of the process, I fall. I stood there, man to man. You hit me in the face, I hit you in the face, I fall. You win. That's not what this was. You know what I mean? That was a man going to a knife fight without a knife and believing he's just going to do judo. He gets stabbed. And then he eventually flames out. And you're like, wait, the fuck was he doing? It's like, well, he knew judo. Yeah, but it's a knife fight. What the fuck is he doing? That's what this feels like. It's an unsatisfying ending to it because it never felt like it was an actual contest where the individual was willing to actually fight for that win. Let me show you what I mean, to put it in perspective. I've shown this before.
It's what's wrong with
But Obama, when he was going against
It's what's wrong with politics
Hillary Clinton, ignore the Sputnik label. This has nothing to do with Sputnik. But when he was running against Hillary Clinton, he ran this ad.
today. Hillary Clinton will say anything to get elected. Now she's making false attacks on Barack Obama. The Washington Post says Clinton isn't telling the truth. She championed NAFTA, even though it has cost South Carolina thousands of jobs. And worst of all, it was Hillary Clinton who voted for George Bush's war in Iraq. Hillary Clinton, she'll say anything and change nothing.
Now, Joe Biden has basically said he's not going to change anything. Nothing's going to change for you guys. On top of that, Joe Biden has been lying about everything from civil rights, from Social Security, about his Iraq war vote. Joe Biden is a flagrant liar. You can point to videos. Joe Biden said black folks can't take care of their kids. I mean, some of this mind-blowing shit that Joe Biden has been saying, it's loaded with ammo. Joe Biden talking about cuts to Social Security and all this other stuff. It's there. Sanders gets up, gives a stump speech. I hope you see the problem here. Where you're looking at trying to, if I'm sitting in the room with Sanders and I'm trying to explain to him, look, this is what you need to do in order to try to cut into these numbers. I can't guarantee you it will do it, but look, from where you are, what you're doing is not working. You got to do something different. He would probably tell me, no, I don't want to do that. And I would push him and say, you have to do this. You are going to lose this race if you continue to do what you're doing. You have an issue with the black vote. You have an issue with the elderly vote. You have to cut into one of those numbers. The one that you can cut into mostly is the black vote. And you need to start focusing and fighting like hell for that particular demographic. And every time Joe Biden lies, you need to hold it to him. Every time he says something stupid about the black vote, you need to say something to him, meaning which he can't take care of the kids. You need to show that video of him saying he can't take care of their kids. Black folks can't take their kids. And show Zerlina Maxwell immediately after, mind blown, freaking out. That's a video that you show. Because Obama would show that video. Because Obama had a ruthless determination in order to get elected. Obama knew from the time he was an infant that he was going to be president of the United States. And not one thing was going to stand in his way in doing so. And so, when he's running against Hillary Clinton, he's the insurgent candidate. He's screaming about hope and change. Big progressive policies. That was the issue. He's risky. He's talking about big progressive stuff. And Hillary Clinton is saying, oh, this guy just has a speech. And Obama is running ads like this. Hillary Clinton is a liar. Hillary Clinton is a liar. Hillary Clinton is not going to change anything. That's politics. He wants it. And he was willing to do that because he wanted it. It's a tool in his toolkit. As you also know, Obama was making those big, expansive speeches about hope and change, pillar to post. But that didn't stop him from running ads like this. This is my point when I'm saying it feels unsatisfying because the candidate wasn't willing to do what was necessary to win the race. He had ideological guidelines, ideological boundaries that he wasn't necessarily willing to surpass, despite the fact that 500,000 people are going bankrupt. You have all of these people sleeping on the streets. You have people who are not getting paid what they're supposed to be paid. You have the wealth not going to get a wealth tax. Like, you have all of these big issues. And because he's buddies with Joe Biden, the embodiment of the oligarchical class that he rails against. But he has a friendship with him. And so all of these other things matter less. Oh my God, you have no idea how much that hurts. Like, that is, my brain doesn't process that. I just don't function that way. Like, you must conform to the game space to which you find yourself. You're a cog in the wheel. There are situations, look, I don't want you to lose yourself in this process. Don't misunderstand me. But your ethics aren't real. Your notion of good, bad, all that stuff, it's not real. Yes, you hold on to who you are ideologically, but at the same token, you are in a game space and you must conform to the rules of the game space. Yes, remain who you are, but politically fudge yourself in order to deal with what you need to do in order to win, especially if everything else is subordinate. And if you are running on this notion of a sense of urgency because of all the big problems, then everything else should be subordinate, including your friendship with Joe Biden. You can be buddies with Joe Biden, but you still need to put a knife in him because you're in a game space that requires you to do such. It's not right or wrong. The rules of the game space compels the actual behavior of the person. When you are on a debate stage and the person budges in, why are they budging in? Because you have a limited amount of time. You have to showboat. You have to get yourself out there, meaning you have to get your big moment. The game space, meaning the debate stage, and what those candidates needs to do compels the behavior that goes far beyond the regular rule set. So yeah, they're going to budge in, they're going to talk over and all of that other stuff because again, the rule set forces them to do so. That's no different than the election. You must behave accordingly in the election. It has nothing to do with your biases and proclivities. You have to act in a particular way to win. You can do both. Walk and chew gum. You can make this argument about Joe Biden being a lie and corrupt and everything else, but you can also make that secondary argument of a vision for this country. You do it extremely well. Let your other people who are more cutthroat guide you in this. They are more right. That's not what happened. That's not what happened. What does the left need to do right now? Where does the left go? I have to be honest, I have no idea where the left goes from here. I can tell you what the left should do, and I can tell you what the left needs to do. It will be controversial. There are going to be a lot of people who are going to give me a lot of shit about it, but it is absolutely, entirely, completely, indubitably true what you should be doing at this moment. Right now, the youth of this nation is opening up a demand right here. Progressive group issues a list of demands for Joe Biden. That's where you start. Listen to me now, because I'm being very honest, and I am almost fucking certain, like approaching the speed of certainty. You start with a demand. What do you want? Clarity. This is what we want. No fucking around. This is what we want. This is not a race to the bottom. This is my litmus test. Start there. Right here. The letter which comes, basically they sent the letter. The letter which comes after Senator Bernie Sanders ended his campaign tells Biden that his pitch to return to normalcy won't earn the trust of the younger generation or inspire them to vote, arguing that they were already falling behind economically before Trump took office. Exclusively anti-Trump messaging won't be enough to lead any candidate to victory. We need you to champion bold ideas that have galvanized our generation and given us hope in the political process, read the letter, signed by the Alliance for Youth Action Justice Democrats, the March on Our Lives Action Fund, Next Generation America Student Action, and the Sunrise Movement and the United We Dream Action. The organizations, some of which endorsed Sanders in the primaries, said they would spend more than $100 million to mobilize millennials and General C voters in this cycle and asked Biden's campaign to ensure that their efforts are backed up by a campaign that speaks to their generation. The group calls on Biden to endorse policy initiatives like Medicare for All, canceling all student debt, taxing wealth in the Green New Deal framework, a fully clean energy economy by 2030, that make process demands like eliminating the legislative filibuster and adding seats to the Supreme Court. Ooh, packing the court. There's better ways to deal with that. Don't do that. There's better ways to deal with that. There's no better ways to do that. You can rotate their asses out. You don't have to pack the court. And they indicate personnel wishes, like rejecting Wall Street or other corporate executive for important roles from picking Homeland Security chief committed to dismantling ICE and CBP as we know them, referring to Immigration and Customs Enforcement, border protection. Now, this is Biden given a rhetorical flourish that I hear you. Let's hear him gives that tongue lashing now. Now they've called you sexist, racist, women abusers. They call that voting for Sanders is sexist in and of itself. They've called you every name but a child of God, and they've been very clear that they are against everything that you are for from the standpoint of policy. So let's hear Biden make his pitch.
Get through this together. That's how we've always done it.
Today, I congratulate Joe Biden, a very decent man.
Okay, I'm not sure what happened, but basically Biden is saying, I hear you, I'm there, we're doing this together, etc., etc. It starts here with the demand. Now the catch becomes, where do they go with that? You have $100 million. Where do you go with that? They've already made the point that Joe Biden is not moving and budging on the standpoint of policy. So you're not getting anything. Sanders has already given over his fealty and allegiance, meaning you are going to be seeing this all across the United States. Start with the demand too. If Sanders does not come out and back this group and what this group is doing, when Sanders comes out and votes for Joe Biden, you must, it behooves you, it is in your best interest to do this.
Right now, we have got to defeat Donald Trump. And we have got to elect Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine.
I know you don't want to do that, but it's imperative that you do that. Sanders is doing politics wrong. Don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying he doesn't know what he's doing. I'm saying he has ideological blinders that prevent him from being able to get over the hurdle in regards to the way he functions in politics. They're not going to give you anything. That's not the way this works. And because they're not going to give you anything, your perspective in this needs to tilt. For the last 50 years, you effectively align yourself with a political party that has no interest in you other than you voting for them, and they know that you're terrified of Republicans, which allows them to effectively get your support without offering, giving, with no intention of doing anything in your benefit. To put this in perspective, they were willing to have a brokered convention as opposed to support Sanders. Roles reverse, Sanders was never willing to do that. Think about that for the moment. He's running a race, taking certain positions that his opposition would never even consider take, and takes advantage of him for taking those positions. That's what I mean when I'm saying these things are just kind of errors that shouldn't take place. Make a demand, stay with that demand, and stop the race to the bottom. Cowardice is the race to the bottom. What do you want to accomplish in the political space? Do you want Medicare for all? Do you want the Green New Deal? What are your limits in that? Meaning, are you willing to settle for Medicare for all in the Green New Deal? Are you willing to settle for Medicare for all? Do you need all three, getting rid of college debt? What is it that you want? And when you're making those demands, what's the condition? What's the consequence? Meaning, if you're just putting this out as we want this, we have $100 million, and Joe Biden says, yeah, go fuck yourself. And you say, okay, we're still going to spend the $100 million to support you. Like, there's no condition. It doesn't matter what you ask for if there's no condition associated with the thing that you're asking for. If Joe Biden says, go fuck yourself, and you turn that $100 million against Joe Biden, not necessarily to elect Trump, but definitely to show a certain degree of muscle and making the point that, yeah, we're not fucking around. This is what we want. Either you support us or you lose. Well, that's politics. That's different. That's you using leverage in order to get what you want. Sanders, right now, even though he got out the race, he should stand. Bernie Sanders should come out right now in the same way this group has just come out, and he should say, look, I'm concerned that Joe Biden doesn't have the energy necessary enough to win this race. For my supporters to back him, he really needs to support Medicare for all, a Green New Deal, and you're getting rid of student debt. No, it's not the entirety of my platform, but at the very least, those items are probably necessary in order to get my supporters to back him. I personally endorse Joe Biden, but I am just very leery of my supporters backing him if he can't get these policy, if this is not his policy agenda. And just for make it very plain, all of these policies that we're telling him to get are popular across the board. Republicans, Democrats, Independents, they're popular, they're winning issues. So there's no excuse for Joe Biden not to support those issues. And so, I can't necessarily blame my supporters if they don't vote for him for not supporting those policies, especially since he has 24% approval. But again, he has my support. But I'm strongly encouraging Joe Biden to back that. Now, this is what I mean when I'm saying political flexibility. Yes, you've endorsed Joe Biden, but you've just also created a line in the sand for your supporters to get behind and realize that you've almost given them a certain approval in not voting for Joe Biden if Joe Biden is not backing those policies. Joe Biden camp and the DNC and all that stuff will perfectly understand the veiled threat that you've just put that line in the sand. And either they're going to tell your supporters to go fuck themselves, in which case they're going to lose that race, because, again, you just put that line in the sand that many of those supporters are going to entirely understand. Many of your supporters are wavy on this notion of whether or not they're going to support the Democrat or the Republican, and they're just itching for a reason not to. They're just itching for a reason. I'm sorry, not the Republican, just not voting for your person, Joe Biden. My point is, one is using leverage. The other one is begging. The one that won't get you anywhere is the begging. It's possible that the Democratic Party would say, we would rather lose than acquiesce to your demands of policies that are popular by a majority. They may say that, in which case there are some levels of existence that you need to be willing to accept if you're ever going to get anything accomplished and if you're ever going to be respected in the political process. That is just honest. You have a dirty fucking room that you've allowed to fester for the last 30 years. Do you honestly believe there's a magical door where you're going to walk through and there's no heartache, there's no pain, there's nothing in that process to change that over in some kind of magical way? No. It takes a certain degree of growing a backbone, growing a spine, being able to have yourself as a political force in the political space, not as disparate entities, but the left as a full-blown thing across the board. The thing that Sanders could do right now, he could do two fucking things right now before he ends this campaign for good. Create a web to bring all of these people together, meaning opening that mailbox, opening that email list or whatever, to allow a brain center of sorts where those people, all of us, can get together, talk, communicate, engage, all of that stuff. And to be able to do that politically. Because that allows a certain degree of cohesion with millions of people. That creates a political force. You have people with demands, the things that they want, and those people with those demands can argue, bitch, moan, and come to the conclusion of the things that they are willing to accept and the things that they are not willing to accept. And if a party doesn't back those items, they don't get that support. Simple and plain. If that party loses or fails, that's on that party. We consider ourselves as something fundamentally different at this point. Fuck you if you don't follow our particular policy plans. It is not for us to get your person over the finish line, and we have ideas. And we're not going to necessarily race to the bottom again for the 50th year or whatever. That's how you get stuff done. The way people have been playing politics, especially on the left, have been sheepdogging for the Democratic Party and has been effectively silencing the left. It has been fundamentally wrong. There is no magical door. Your progress starts with a certain degree of organization and development with the capacity of saying no, and saying no in mass to the degree that it makes it impossible for the party closest to pass, even if that means that party fails. And you, this coalition, becomes something fundamentally different and something else that gains and takes over what they are. But it starts there. It starts with a backbone. It starts with ignoring cowardice, even if that means the Republican wins. You have to start somewhere. And there is no magical door in this process. That's just honest. And again, don't take it from me. Take it from somebody behind the scenes.
If you want to pull the party, the major party that is closest to the way you're thinking, to what you're thinking, you must show them that you're capable of not voting for them.
Because the way the Democratic Party is run now for quite a number of presidential cycles is they pick a nominee in a kind of half-assed process that doesn't really represent much of anybody. And then they tell everybody to just shut up. Don't bring up anything that will complicate life for your nominee. You know he's not for you on this. Why badger him? He's not going to be for you for reasons that you don't understand but are good reasons. Shut up. Turn off your brains.
If you don't show them you're capable of not voting for them, they don't have to listen to you. I promise you that. I worked within the Democratic Party. I didn't listen or have to listen to anything on the left while I was working in the Democratic Party because the left had nowhere to go. The
left had nowhere to go. Cowardice. That's the Mr. Smith at the door. It just is. I mean, tell me I'm wrong. How am I wrong in that particular point? That's Mr. Smith. That's the thing in the Matrix where that's the door you got to walk through. You have nowhere else to go. If you can't engage that and be willing to effectively lose, and you have to ask yourself, what does lose mean? Is that a loss for you, or is it a loss for the Democratic Party? And does that loss to some degree bolster your leverage in future political combat? Your chances in a race is not necessarily indicative of one race. Your political space doesn't end with an election. And if you are part of the left and you have very specific policy ideas that you're trying to get accomplished, one of the first key things that you're trying to develop, especially if you're talking about an organization, is some degree of leverage. Your potential to even grow into something as a third party or something starts off, again, with somewhat of a neural center of webbing together all of these lefties, millions of people across the United States, under one umbrella, where they can talk, bitch, moan, come up with clear political ideas that function almost under the political space in which they kind of negotiate and talk and come up with, this is what we want. These are our policy ideas. Accept it, or you don't get our support. And be clear about it. It's hard-nosed politics. It's fanatical, ruthless devotion to a particular cause. What is your objective? Is your objective to get real things done? Is your objective to fuck around? I mean, Sanders, yes, was able to bring those ideas into the limelight, but at the end of the day, and the main things that he needed to do was fucking around. If Obama was running now in this race, and he was running with Joe Biden, let's say Joe Biden wasn't his vice president. No, better yet, let's use Hillary Clinton. Obama's running against Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton comes out and pretend for the moment that Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. shit, where is it? Where is it? All right. Pretend for the moment Joe Biden is Hillary Clinton. Obama's running in a race against her. Hillary Clinton goes to South Carolina, black church, and says this.
I was a teenager in Delaware. For real, I got involved in the civil rights movement. We have the 8th largest black population in America. Most people don't know that. And I'd go to 8 o'clock Mass, then I'd go to Reverend Herring's church where we'd meet in order to organize and figure where we were going to go, whether we were going to desegregate the Rialto movie theater or what we were going to do. I got my education for real in the black church. And that's not hyperbole, it's a fact. But I got my education.
Now, Obama gets wind of this. And Obama finds out that in the 80s, Hillary Clinton was in a presidential contest and ends up dropping out of the contest because she got caught lying. Obama finds the video. The video is this.
60s, I was, in fact, very concerned about the civil rights movement. I was not an activist. I worked at an all-black swimming pool in the east side of Wilmington, Delaware. I was involved in what they were thinking, what they were feeling. I was involved, but I was not out marching. I was not down in Selma. I was not anywhere else. I was a suburbanite kid who got a dose of exposure to what was happening to black Americans when I'm in my own city.
What would Obama do? What would Obama do? Think about it for the moment. Look, I know a lot of Bernie supporters don't like this video. But there needs to be an autopsy on the left, honestly, in the way that we pursue our affairs. If you are in a political contest, you should use this as an example of what not to do. At the very least, not letting biases get in your way of doing the job that you're there to do. Everything else should be subordinate. Because understand, if it really does burn in you, the pain and anguish that people feel. I mean, for fuck's sake, man. You're talking about getting rid of people's student debt. That's tens of thousands of dollars off of people's backs. What do you think that means to those people to not have that debt on their backs? You're talking about Medicare for all, where people don't have to have these medical bills, not have to, leverage their insulin. Like, these are big, big ideas, big things, invasive, positively invasive things in people's lives. If that burns in you, it looks like that will motivate you to be everything else matters less. Because these things are so big and so monumental in regards to how they positively affect human beings. If you're part of the left, you need to realize that in political contests, you're stuck with the rules of the system. That doesn't mean you have to lose yourself. If Obama finds that video and he realizes, holy shit, Hillary Clinton is at black churches lying about being part of the civil rights movement, what does Obama do? Does Obama put out a video showing that? Meaning showing Clinton at the black church and then showing Clinton lying about it and, hit her on the knuckles for it? Or does he just pretend this didn't exist? What do you think he's going to do? He's going to show this video. You know he's going to show this video. You know 1,000 times Obama is going to show this video. He's going to put millions of dollars behind showing this video of her lying at that black church. Why? Because he wants to win. It's his job to win. He's not doing anything wrong with showing it. The person who did something wrong was Clinton. He's just revealing that it's wrong. Sanders would never show this video. Sean King, Sanders' surrogate, had access to this video. Sanders would never show it. He would never show it. How much did Sanders lose the black vote by? He is, again, same question. Obama is on the debate stage. Obama is asked the question. Damn it, what did I do with it? Obama is on the debate stage. Obama is asked the question about, if I can find it, give me 1 second, I'm sorry. All right. Obama's on the debate stage. Now, a few things have taken place. A, Joe Biden has been at Obama's been, Hillary Clinton has been at a black church lying about being part of the civil rights movement. B, one of your surrogates wrote an article saying it's Joe Biden has betrayed black people, but in this case, let's say Hillary Clinton has betrayed black people. And 4, you are now in the debates. And while you are in the debates, you're asked point blank this question: what would Obama do versus what Sanders did?
Co-chairs published an op-ed piece that said Vice President Biden has, quote, repeatedly betrayed black voters to side with Republican lawmakers and undermine our progress. Senator Sanders, do you agree with her, one of your most visible surrogates, that Vice President Biden has repeatedly betrayed black voters?
Well, I think what Senator Turner was talking about are some of the early actions of Vice President Biden. But no, Joe Biden is a friend of mine, and I'm not here to attack him. But
what would Obama do? What would Obama do? What Obama would do, or at the very least, in this case, what Sanders should have done in this moment. God. Oh, fuck, man. It's just missed opportunity. Like, somebody had to have told him, Sanders, you don't attack your surrogates. A, the first point. B, you need the black vote. C, you need to play for the black vote. You need to get that vote. D, your rousing speeches aren't doing it. E, those people are for Joe Biden, meaning you need to find a way to harvest that vote out of Joe Biden. And the way to do that is not the rousing speech. The way to do that is to point out Joe Biden has been tokenizing the civil rights movement for political expedience. And he has been going from one church to the next, lying about being part of the civil rights movement when in the 80s he had already admitted he wasn't part of it. You say that, and then you get pissed off, and you say it is shameful that Joe Biden is doing that. I walked with King. I was in that movement. I was chained to a black woman, and Joe Biden is lying about this. That's what you do when he lies, which he inevitably will in this, because this is stinging and damning. You have your videos that are spread all out through South Carolina, all out through Georgia and southern states, making that very specific point that you just made on the debate stage when that attractive African-American woman asks you that question. When Joe Biden lies, you say you were at a swimming pool and you said back in the 80s that you were thinking about it. You are being dishonest. Yes, you're my friend, Joe Biden, but you're being dishonest. And I have all sorts of African Americans here in my campaign, the younger generation, that wants to know honest truth about what happened. The honest truth about what happened is I was there, you weren't. That's stinging. And you know what happens? That reverberates. That gets on television. People are like, fuck, man, Bernie Sanders beasted out on Joe Biden on that. And you take the mantle of being the person who's for civil rights. Now, whether or not that translates for you getting the entirety of the black vote or not, whether that translates you winning South Carolina or not, what needs to take place is for you not to get blown out in South Carolina. Because the moment you get blown out in South Carolina, it allows a shift in Super Tuesday and allows Warren to effectively hold you down while Joe Biden gets the killing blow. I don't know what happens if you take South Carolina, or at the very least, you get closer in South Carolina. If you take it, the pressure would be on Joe Biden of asking why is he even in the race. So you may not even hit Super Tuesday with the notion of Warren and Biden being in the race. I guess my point is, you have to take every advantage possible. Your black vote was your issue, and you needed to carve into Joe Biden, and Joe Biden exposed himself by lying about civil rights, and you never took the hit. Roles reverse, he would have put a knife in you. It is missed opportunity. I don't do missed opportunity well. And maybe that's why I'm feeling pissed off about this. Yeah. It's a dark day. It's a dark, dark day. Jocelyn DeWelt, I am so heartbroken. Jocelyn, I am so heartbroken too. I am there with you, Jocelyn. Zane Jamerson, what do you think about the Nina Turner running in the future? She can definitely move forward with Bernie's base and expand to include more African Americans. Look, I'm on board for Nina. I like me some Nina Turner. So I have no issue with Nina Turner. I just feel it's like missed opportunity. That's all. The left needs to be able to... I mean, I guess it's a moot point, right? Sanders is not going to do it. That demand needs to be made up, however, with the ability to walk. Whether it's using the money against party's interests, whether it's just not using it at all to back the party. But if that group is working in unison in that way, they need to come to a conclusion about A, their demands, which they already have, but also that they are willing to not back their candidates. They are willing to tell their people to back out. They're not representing your interests, back out. If you don't do that, then your demands doesn't mean anything. I hope you understand my point. You can bitch and moan about anything. If you're not going to do anything about it, it doesn't matter that you're bitching and moaning about it. If they're not willing to walk, then that demand means nothing. And that's where Sanders comes in. Because Sanders, making his demand, would add heft, A, to their demand, but also puts a line in the sand in regards to, do you want the support or not? And make it clear whether or not they're going to back your interests or not. And if they say, no, we're not going to back your interests, well, that gives people's, Sanders supporters that much more of a question of whether or not they want to support a party that is clearly not going to support their interests and don't bend to policy concessions. Now, you making the point that, especially if it's done in mass, I'm not doing that. I want X, Y, Z. You either acquiesce to my demands or I walk. That gets you further along than what we've been doing for the last 50 years. Like, share, subscribe.